Hi everyone, it's Renee with Delaney Jane Cards. Welcome back to my channel. This is my monthly collaboration with Amanda over at Rise and Procrastinate. We missed a few, but we really try to do this every month. This month's theme was something we had to have and yet still haven't used. um, I dropped everything and I went to the Spellbinders site when this was released. This is the amazing Paper Grace, I guess, line for Spellbinders, the Glimmer hot foil plate, and it is Sweet Blossoms border. I just thought it was very pretty and something that I thought was that I could use for like lots of things. I'm thinking like birthdays and sympathy cards and thinking of you cards and all sorts of things. And while I was at the site more recently, they were having a sale on their hot foil, and what you see me cutting here is the copper hot foil. I had picked it up. It's gorgeous. I had to have it, but I had still not used it until this card. So far we have unboxed two things to make this card that I absolutely had to have, but had not even touched. Now, with those parameters, though, needed to have, but had not touched, I probably had, I don't know, 1,000 different options. And these are the things I chose. Now, what I'm using here is some removable Scotch tape, and I am taping my plate down to some Arches watercolor paper. This watercolor paper is also something that I absolutely had to have. I do use it though. This is the 140 pound, what do you call it? Cold pressed Arches watercolor paper. I had heard that it is like super good for watercoloring when I was learning how to watercolor, and so I had to have that. So although we are doing had to have but had not used, I'm going to try to show you all these things that I just had to have. This Go Press and Foil machine too, I had to have it. Look at how pretty that is. It is less expensive than the other hot foil machine. This did fit through my Switch, which I also had to have, so I was very appreciative of that. But here we go. This is my paper here, and I am gonna tell you up front that this card was a 2-day process. What you see here was done one day, and then the rest of the card was done the day later. But these are also something I had to have. They're the Altenew watercolor, what are you actually called? Watercolor brush markers in tropical. I don't know. I needed to have them. My red one that's in there like leaks, so I'm like super careful with them. But I pulled out a few colors. I have Sweet Leaf, Purple Wine, and what's the other one called? Sunset, I think? Sun Kissed. And what I did is wet down my whole paper. Also, it's on a waffle flower little mat. I also had to have that. And I just stuck my magnets for the tonic mat to that. It held everything in place, but I just wasn't sure if this watercolor would stain my tonic mat, and I didn't want it to. So first I'm taking this Sweet Leaf and I'm just going in and kind of touching the areas outside of my flowers. Not that it really matters. This is just a base color. And then I realized it was like pooling. So I took one of these brushes. These are also something that was on my must-have list. These are the Royal and Langnickle. And this is the Zen Z83R. So it's an 8 round brush. I love them. I'm glad I have them. I have used them a few times. Like I said, these are all must-have items that I must have at the moment that I got them. Like logged into a website particularly to purchase. These aren't things that I just tossed in my bag because they were on sale or because, oh, that looks fun. No, these were things that I actually logged in to purchase. So here I am just painting in that purpley color, which is called Purple Wine. And then just using the brush and the water to kind of just smoosh it around. What I'm doing is just creating a like wash, but kind of specifically putting the wash where I want it to be. So that's probably not really a wash. That's just me making things up. Anyway, it looks like a hot mess, and it will continue to look like a hot mess for a while. But that's how most everything in my life works. And then my paper was completely wet, so I'm going to drag these colors off into that water. They will get light, but it will create a wash across the whole page, so I don't have any like white paper. And I think it's a really pretty look in the end. But at this point, I was like, oh, I have no idea how this is going to turn out. And I finished like streaking this color all the way across with my brush, try to, keep away the white. And then I dried up my little waffle flower mat here to make sure that there wasn't going to be anything poking through. And I left it to dry overnight. Here it is, all dry. It really wasn't too warped. I hadn't taped it down or anything, but it didn't warp too badly. So here is, these are the colored pencils. I know, right? Watercolor color pencils. These are the color pencils I decided to use. I had scribbled them on a piece of the same watercolor paper and decided what colors I was going to use to create my flowers. I'm not going to show you everything because we would be here forever. This card took me a while. But what you see me doing here is putting down the process red, which is the lightest red color that I have, over the whole petal. And then I went in with the mulberry and went over 3/4 of the petal, leaving the process red to itself out on the edges of the petals. Then I added, I think it was the dark purple and then the Tucson red. Same thing, layering it over and over, blending it back out with the process red. I will go in with a little bit of white and add a little bit of highlight to the edge of the petal. And I will do this to every single flower petal on this card front. Ready? It's super fast. Don't blink. Oh, wait, I'm not done yet. I'm not done. Ready? And, oh, look, all flowers are colored in. I just love editing. I think it's so cool. And then for the green colors, I am using, and I'm doing the same process, completely in the one color, then almost covering that all the way up, and then, the dark color. So I'm using, wait, I was trying to read the French names. I'm using True Green, Parrot Green, and Grass Green. I was like, Vert, what do you mean Vert? Vert is green. So that's what I used there for all of the leaves. And I'm going to do the exact same thing through the magic of editing. I'm going to have all the leaves done here real shortly. But you can see I just used this darker color right up against the natural center line of the leaf, and then faded them out lighter as they went out to the edge, and blended everything. And then I am going to go ahead and add a little bit of white to these as well to go ahead and highlight them. I think it just adds a little bit of shape and shading and dimension. And use a brush to wipe off or you will end up with smears. Look, snip! And all of the leaves are again filled in. And I think it's turning out so pretty. But then I realized that I still hadn't filled in the center of that flower. So for that, I'm using, let's see, dark umber, Spanish orange, and burnt orange. And I will list all the colors below. And these are Prismacolor pencils. These are also something that I had to have. This set in particular, I didn't purchase. It was gifted to me because I purchased a smaller set, and my friend Leanne sent me a larger set that she hadn't been using. So those were items I had to have. Now we're going to go finish the card, and I'm going to go ahead and use some items that they were a must. So if you've been stamping for a minute, you might remember something called a stamp-a-ma-jig. And I have mine here. I also have an old wooden stamp from Stamp-abilities. This is one of my most used, my favorite, I guess my oldie but a goodie wooden stamps. And I am using the Stamp-a-ma-jig. I just put a little bit of ink on my stamp. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to stamp it down on this clear plastic sheet that goes with my Stamp-a-ma-jig. But as you've seen, my little tiny My Favorite Things ink pad was completely dried out, so I just grabbed another little one. Like I said, this doesn't have to be a perfect impression. You just have to see where the words are. So you butt that square piece, the clear piece, up inside of the Stamp-a-ma-jig, line up the stamp and stamp it down. And you can see here, it's not a perfect image, but it's enough for me to see where that's going to stamp. So this is my card base. I'm going to line this piece of plastic up where I want it. Once I have it where I want it, I'm going to put the stamp jig there into the corner. Once I have the stamp jig into the corner, I can ink up my mounted stamp with my ink, and I'm using VersaFine Onyx Black because I want a nice, crisp, clean image. And as long as my stamp-a-ma-jig, that blue piece there, is in place and I hold it still, I can line my stamp up, take my time to stamp it, making sure that I give enough time for the ink to transfer from the stamp to the paper. And look at that, beautiful image. So now that my card base is done, I'm going to go back to my card. So this stamp set by Clearly Besotted, when it came out, I thought it was the most beautiful sentiment stamp set I had ever seen. It is the brushed sentiments. Does it have a year on here? Oh, maybe 2017. I don't know. But it's got some really beautiful sentiments. So I thought I'd use that. And then, you know how sometimes you struggle to get things straight? This little overlay here is from Simon Says Stamp, and it's just that. It's just a clear grid that you can use to line things up. Mine has seen better days because it, of course, has been used quite a bit. But it is a must-have item that I guess probably doesn't get as much use as it could in my craft room. Here's also another one. This Scrap Perfect. Yeah, Scrap Perfect. The Perfect Embossing Bag. I think that's the best embossing powder bag I have used. I did have like the EK Success tool and different embossing bag. And anyway, that one happens to be my favorite. And then I'm using Versamark ink, which is a sticky ink. It's an oil-based sticky ink. It's also a must-have if you want to do some embossing. What I did here is just stamped it a few times in the same place. This is watercolor paper, so I made sure I got a really good image or impression. Now I'm adding some copper embossing powder from Ranger. It's just the copper. It's just the color. I had to have this because my child dumped all of my embossing powders out once, and I got to buy new ones twice. That's a long story. But I'm going to melt this embossing powder with a heat gun. This was running off camera for quite a bit, probably 5-10 minutes. It's very hot. It melted that embossing powder super fast. But this is watercolor paper, so I wanted to make sure everything was nice and perfect. And then I went ahead and dusted all of that anti-static powder from my embossing powder bag with the brush, brushed that all off my panel. Here's another item that I had to have, I must own. It is an ATG gun from Scotch. I love mine. I've had it for a very long time, probably close to 10 years now, if not more. And it has become, I don't know, my go-to. So it's something that I had to have, but I do find myself using it very, very often. Just my opinion, if you really like something and you're just not sure if it's worth your investment, wait a little bit to buy it and see if it has staying power, which is kind of something that I do pretty often. If it's something that I see people using still, a year or two later, I probably will really take a better look at investing in that item. The ATG gun was one of them. Here I just mounted on a piece of black cardstock and then onto my card base, and there you go. That's my card. I think it turned out really pretty. I tried to add some embellishments, but I just didn't find anything that I liked. Here's my card. I really hope that you hop over to Amanda's and see what was the thing that she absolutely had to have, couldn't go without, bought it, got it home, and still hadn't used. I'm really curious. We never see each other's cards or projects before we share our videos for our club, so I'm on pins and needles just like you are. So I will leave her video and channel link below. I hope you jump on over there and let her know that that you really enjoyed her video, because sometimes that's what we need to hear, is that we aren't doing it for nothing, that somebody's getting a little bit of enjoyment out of it. Anyway, have a great day, and as I always say, give cards generously. Bye!